I don't know what kind of relationships y'all are in, but if I don't speak for 2 days, that's game.
Can we live a fulfilling and purposeful life to the fullest without marriage?
I have a question for the guys. Like, when do you feel safe?
For me, you have to show certain characteristics that would prove to me that I can trust you.
If we're starting this right with God leading both of us to each other, we avoid the whole unequally yoked thing to begin with.
So, Joel, all right, finish what you were saying. What was the point you wanted to make so emphatically?
What I was saying is, I don't know what kind of relationships y'all are in, but if I don't speak for 2 days, that's game. 2 days is crazy.
I agree with that. We not talking for 2 days.
If you don't speak for a day, that's a pretty big problem. But it can happen. That can happen. However, 2 days?
That's a lot of pride.
Maybe y'all shouldn't be together
Beneath your chin.
if it's 2 days.
Diamond, you kind of looking like you've been missed 2 days before.
No, I don't think we need to miss 2 hours. I just
2 hours.
I like constant communication. If there's a problem, no. I just, or at least tell me, listen, I need some time. 2 days is ridiculous.
What if someone's like, I was busy?
No, you're not busy for 2 days. No
Here's
one's
my
busy for 2 days.
rationale on that.
Busy.
No one's busy for 2 days.
Here's my rationale on that. If you truly care about this person who you consider to be your person, and you haven't spoken to them in 2 days, you're basically like you don't know what happened to them. You don't know if they're alive or dead. I sound like my mom. You don't know if they're alive or dead. And you go 2 days or a few days without talking to them, then you really don't care. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I see it. I'm like, anything could happen.
I don't know if there's that. There's I don't care. And then there's pride, there's ego. There's so many things that gets in the way of people communicating.
But the excuse is never, I was too busy.
Right, yes.
Because in this age of us having our phone next to us 24/7.
I agree.
I know surgeons that in the middle of their surgery that they're doing, they get a call or a text message from their partner. And even though they can't scrub out and text or call back,
That not be my surgeon.
they will ask the circulating nurse to say, let them know that I'll call them back in an hour. Let them know I'm in the middle of surgery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if a surgeon can do that.
It really goes back to communication. Like, communication has to be a big part. And if you can go 2 days, then there has to be a reevaluation of what communication looks like to both parties.
A question that was very prevalent in our polling was, is marriage the goal, or is it just one expression of love that we have out of all of them, romantically and not?
Marriage is the goal. Why? Yeah. Because I want to be personally, I want to partner up with one person, and then we can fulfill our purpose together, individually together.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, Gia. It was the finger.
No. I get that, and I feel the same way, right?
Yes.
But I think more so the question might be asking, is marriage God's goal for all of us?
Yes.
Or is that just one expression of his love? Like, can we live a fulfilling and purposeful life to the fullest without marriage?
My God.
The Paul experience.
I believe that to be called individually, not for marriage, that's a specific calling that God specifically calls you on. And what that looks like, I do not know, because I wasn't called for that. Right? But what I can say is that you asked a question. Can you ask it one more time? There was a 2-part question to that. I felt like, no?
Oh, it's like, is marriage the goal, or is that just one form of love?
Expression, yeah.
One expression of love.
Yeah, so marriage is the goal in God's eyes. Because when we look back in be fruitful and multiply. But when he was taking his flesh, he was taking Adam's flesh or ribs, and then he placed it inside of Eve.
Right.
That was the original goal, which was covenant.
So, Leading talked about something in the last episode. Oh, was I about to take out your mouth? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because you had touched on something before. Well, you said something about Paul. You were like, Paul was kind of like,
Yeah,
hey,
'cause-
hey.
No, Paul. It was Paul. It was Paul.
Yeah,
it was Paul.
You're pretty much saying like,
before,
yeah,
but I think
Paul was like,
No,
if
I
you're gonna
said
get
Paul.
married, here's what da 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 da. Not me though, but y'all need a da da da.
Who's Paul?
You said Paul.
Yeah, I said Paul.
Yeah. Is that what you're about to bring up?
No, I was gonna bring up that marriage can be the goal for some people, but I don't think it's for everybody. But it's also an expression of love. I don't think it's a two-part thing, and honestly, because without marriage, how are you really expressing your love without the covenant? Because even if people say, "Oh, I'm not getting married because of the government," whatever, they're still technically married. Technically, underneath the church, no, but how they're living, how they're moving, how they're building their family, they're technically married.
So you're saying for some people, marriage is the goal. For some people, it's not.
Yeah.
So
for
then the
sure.
question is, are we putting everyone on the marriage goal track?
I don't think you should.
But are we?
I think most people can do that though. Like even in a church, I think we all believe that marriage is the goal in church. For other people, not so much. Outside of church, I mean.
So you're saying everyone that's in church, marriage should be the goal.
Yes, I think so.
Unless otherwise called.
Unless otherwise
especially.
called, especially
Single, yeah.
to be single, then no.
Yeah, and I think that's what the question was really asking for us as Christians. In general, should marriage be the goal unless you know that you were specifically called to another path?
Yeah.
Came down.
Because
Told me. Unless he himself sat next to me and said, "This is not for you. It is the goal."
But there's a level of grace that comes with being called to be not with anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't imagine that individual is having sex. I don't imagine I can just ideally look at what God, when he designed sex, he designed it for two people that are married. So if someone's called to not be in a marriage, like they're like John the Baptist, like they out on a mission.
I don't know. I feel as though if a person was called to another path outside of marriage by God specifically, there would be signs. And I also believe that, I could be wrong, but this is my opinion, that this person probably didn't want marriage in the first place, or probably didn't necessarily care for it. In the sense, they didn't desire it.
Are you thinking that if their heart truly desired it, then it would be cruel for God to keep them from that type of a thing?
I agree.
Yes.
It's a sacrifice.
Let's look,
Yes.
because some men, I don't know a lot of women that would say they don't desire marriage, but I know some men would fall under the category that would take advantage of, I'm not called for marriage. And then they're living,
But how you doing, girl?
But they're lying.
they're living the lifestyle.
And that is lying.
That's lying.
Yeah.
That's not real.
Some people say that they're not called, but there's like either fear behind it, or there's like, I'm not really called for marriage because you don't want to have the commitment part of it. Not necessarily.
Yeah, there's
because you
different
can't and you don't
barriers
desire
behind
to,
it,
but
yeah.
because you just want to be free and like willy nilly. Or there's some women who, like I've heard say, they don't want marriage, which, like you said to me, is crazy from a woman. But everyone's opinions. But a lot of them say that because they believe that they can't have it or they can't find love. So your backbone now is, oh, I don't want a marriage, but it's really because you feel like you can't have that. So
I think marriage is so beautiful, though. You get to have one person that you can develop what life looks like in a new, defined way. Like, yes, we all have our behaviors, but now we have to combine that, and now it can either go messy or, just what it's supposed to look like, individual. Because when you're with that person, it's gonna look like designed how you and that person. It's not supposed to replicate other relationships and stuff.
I think people have to, when they take on these mantles that I wasn't called for marriage, they gotta remember, biblically, that means that you're not called for sex. You're not called for children. You're not called for a family. You're not called for, and that is, defined as sacrifice. If not that, I'm not called for marriage.
And maybe
But-
it won't even be a desire.
But girl, how you feel about going out with me tonight? Like,
Yeah.
that's not what that means biblically.
Another question that came up very frequently here was the question of, here you're talking about developing with someone, growing with an individual.
Right.
What versions of you show up in a relationship that typically don't show up anywhere else in your life?
Well, vulnerability plays such a big part in that answer in different ways, because when you change every so often, it's a season. So your version of yourself will always develop. It just the level of communication behind that and being open. And I think you can do that with one or two people. You need community anyway. So it develops in partnership.
Man, you had a big sigh.
And I was gonna say I think you're the only married person here, so I'm really curious to hear your opinion on this.
Oh boy.
It's me with my cup, like.
So your question again was, what version of yourself shows up in marriage that is not typically outside anywhere else?
Yeah.
How do I even describe it? Right. No, but marriage brings out a specific side of your true self.
Yeah, because it's a mirror.
It's your true self, because there's no opportunity to hide, like Jay was saying earlier. You live with this person 24/7. There is no opportunity to hide. In dating, somebody pisses you off, you can drop them off respectfully, right? Go home. Don't slam the door. Go home, right? Go home, work it out, and then the next time you see them, it's pleasant. But there's no such thing in marriage. So your true authentic self comes out. If you're a selfish person, you're going to be a really selfish person to your partner. If you're somebody who has a lot of ego, who has not learned to submit, and this is not just a woman's, what's that called, requirement. Men have to submit to their wives as well. If you're somebody who's never learned how to submit, you'll be a rebel. For sure. In marriage. But the truth is that no matter how much you prepare on working on your selfishness, or working to be selfless, or working to, chill your ego, there is a deep adjustment period once you enter that covenant, once you're in marriage, because there's just you have no context of what level of humility you have to have, prior to entering it. So, we're talking about earlier about having mentors. I wish somebody told me that and I actually got upset with my dad and my uncles. I'm like, none of you guys pulled me aside and said, listen, this is what you're going to go through. Like, I don't appreciate this. But I wish somebody had warned me about that.
What
told
did
me
they
that.
say?
When I told them that,
Yeah.
they were like, oh, we're sorry.
They said, you learned how we learned it.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, you go through that. So there has to be a grace period where you have to sort of, sit with yourself and admit to yourself, we're going through a time where we're both learning what this stuff really requires. And, you have to give each other grace to be able to adjust and truly, because that's the part about becoming one. You had to submit and allow yourselves to become one. Otherwise, you're two individuals that are married, but just roommates.
I have a question for the guys. Like, when do you feel safe
What do you mean?
to allow yourself?
I think for me, you have to show certain characteristics that would prove to me that I can trust you. I don't think trust is a big thing. How you handle information is also a big thing, emotionally and intellectually. How you're able to respond as well to information. Because if I'm telling you something and then you respond sporadically, or you respond with certain things that really don't really matter, then I don't feel safe with you anymore.
So like sufficient communication.
Yeah,
skills.
sufficient communication skills has to matter. And I think when you're dating somebody, that could waver a lot of the times because some people may have different emotions. But I think through marriage, I don't know yet, but you would know.
You will.
But I think through marriage, you have much more of an opportunity to understand somebody else. So you're able to feel safe enough to be like, okay, I could just let things go in some aspects.
I would hope that by the time you and your partner are exploring the idea of marriage or lifelong committed partnership, that you would have a firm grasp or mastery of those skills and know what that area of safety looks like. And if you didn't have it in the beginning, during the dating phase or the courtship phase, you've developed that safe space. You've actually put into that foundation of your relationship how to communicate effectively, how to how to be a good steward of the trust. Because if I'm giving you my trust, I'm being vulnerable with you. If you mishandle it, then I'm taking it back. And then I think that kind of hinders the process. Well, not taking it back, but I'm going to be very cautious of doing it in the future. Yeah. And I think that kind of hinders the process, the growth process between you and your partner. Because if there's no safety, if there's no trust, if there's no effective communication, when I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe, then I don't know a lot of men who would openly submit. I don't know people in general. I don't know if anybody would submit if they don't feel safe or if they can communicate when they need something.
Yeah. The one advice I can give to young men that are, if at all, I'm not an expert in any way.
Younger men,
yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. Is that enter marriage with the expectation that you don't know everything, that you haven't learned everything, that you haven't achieved everything. So to your point, I don't think there's a level of mastery you could ever achieve in communicating that would make it sufficient for you to be sail through in marriage.
No. There's gonna be moments where you're gonna have like a little hurricane, a little storm
because
here and there.
you know, and we joke about this before, but you moving in with someone, especially from a Christian perspective, you haven't lived with them before, right? And you guys are together for 24/7. It changes people, right? Like it's all of you're used to having your own
Spotlight's
space.
always on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're used to having your own space. It affects people. That's what I'm trying to say. So, and that's just one example, right? All I'm trying to say is just have in mind that both of you are growing exponentially and expediently. And you have to give each other grace in that moment. That's the one thing I'm learning.
Yeah, every day is a reset almost.
Take the lesson from yesterday,
but you have to.
And you're failing. You're failing every day, by the way. You're failing every day. I'm just like, oh Lord.
You know the funny thing in the failure, there are still lessons that you can still take from that. And I think what makes or breaks relationships is the inability to grow from those failures, to handle conflict resolution, and to know when to give your partner space. Go to your corners to cool down.
Self-awareness.
Accountability.
Yeah.
And as well, but coming back to a place of effective communication, a loving space, in order to handle those moments, it'll be easier to apply grace.
Yeah.
Here's my
That wasn't funny, but it just was. Why did we all listen?
I was like, wait.
It's wise to listen. It's wise.
I was like,
Now that you're done with the foolishness, let me.
I hope not.
Here's my take is, I feel like you guys, the couple has to develop one sound logic. Logic between men and women are different. I believe that when we're confused about how we view logic, each one of us, it elongates arguments. I believe in right and wrong. Some women do not.
And some men too.
You know
Some
what?
individuals.
I applaud the progress here, and you know why.
Yes.
All the guys know why I applaud Joel's progress here because he said some.
Now,
Oh boy,
now,
long way.
I have been in arguments
God.
with my partner, and I said, but I or this is right. And I've gotten the answer back, it's not about being right. And that blows my mind.
But sometimes it's not. It's not about being right. It's
I
really.
get it.
It's not always about being right. I can give you your credit for being right, but how did you go about it? How did you talk to me? How did you go? Yeah, how you talk to me is very big. I don't care if you're right. If you were disrespectful, all that went out
But
the window.
sometimes me personally, I practice taking my feelings out of a conversation, because sometimes when you're talking to a man, sometimes like some men can be very aggressive. Not everybody is emotionally intelligent. And sometimes you got to be like, okay, I'm just going to take my feelings out of this one, because I know there's more to this conversation that I might be missing. And I don't want my feelings to cloud what you're actually saying, because I need to logically make sense so this doesn't linger. But being correct is really not the goal. It's because everybody has a point of view. And the point of the conversation is to get to a resolution. And you might not even agree from the individual's point of view. It's really like, what is your intention going in with the conversation? And what is the intention on resolving the issue?
Here's the thing. If right and wrong are taken out of the equation, how can we reach a resolution?
You have to go ahead.
I'm with you. I am to an extent, because I had to learn I can't be right all the time. Only because if I'm dating a woman or I'm married to a woman, I have to understand that a lot of times being right or wrong doesn't really matter. No. Even when you're talking about conversation with other people too, tone matters, dialect matters, how you're saying it matters, what you're saying it matters. Even though you're right, something could piss somebody off, even how you said it.
Yeah.
I think every church should have a young married couples ministry, like for the first 5 years of marriage. You know? I think that would do wonders for our church community, you know? I know we have I think there's a marriage ministry, but like something specifically for like newly married couples.
Folks.
That's the term I'm thinking about, newly married couples, you know? And maybe that's something for us as a church as a whole to think about.
Well, then should the same thing exist for dating?
It's different.
Yes.
It's
different.
but I understand Jayan's point.
That falls to like singles and young adults.
There is a relationship. Give it to me. There is a relationship ministry in, supposed to be in every church. Under that bracket is marriage, dating, singleness. It's all family. All of it is supposed to be under that umbrella of relationship ministry. Family life ministry.
Okay.
Each church should and is supposed to have it. And how they run, it's supposed to be under that bracket where all of that is supposed to be touched on. There should be constant resources coming out of just that ministry. Now, does every church do that? No. But they are supposed to for that exact reason.
Okay.
Great point.
But even in the absence of those ministries, what I think, actually singles can do this as well. You know, if you want to get somewhere, find somebody who's done it, at least in your eyes, well, and latch onto them and try and learn from them. I think that's the best. You know, again, going back to the mentorship thing, right? Newly married couples should definitely have mentors for sure. Because how in the world did you survive 30 years? How did that happen, you know?
Surviving 30 years is cute.
No, the thought of 30 years with someone.
Sounds like a documentary though. Surviving 30 years.
I'm like, what?
No, but that's exactly the point I was trying to make. I think in our churches, there's a lack of trust in really meaningful ways. I know that I'm not comfortable talking to many people in our church about my personal relationship and what's going on there because I don't know. I don't trust that your goal is my best interest. You know, you just want to see, you're just being nosy. Right.
Like, don't let her talk to you like that.
Exactly.
What you need to do is leave.
Exactly. So
You're a real man.
and similarly, so under the same family life ministries are like men's ministries and women's ministries. A lot of the ministries, the men's ministry, a would-be men's ministry leader asked me that recently, what are some of the conversations we're supposed to be having? Should we be having? And I'm like, well, have you guys ever had the conversations around infidelity, or you know what brings it about? Because our churches definitely have infidelity, right? But you never hear anybody talking about it.
Not out loud.
Not out loud, which I think is a problem, right? So where are the men holding other men accountable, right? But if you never discuss these things, and case in point, a good friend of mine, he's married quite a few years. More than I have been. We're talking to these like I can understand why married men cheat. And from his perspective, I get it, right? I understand exactly what he's saying. If
what was his reason?
There's a lot of reasons, but oh man.
I think you
Never mind. That's a whole different topic.
Okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's gonna just.
you stepped on a landmine.
Never mind. It's
But
okay.
but I do not reject the idea that can be a conversation we can have on this podcast, right? I definitely think it's something that we should talk about freely. But I think every married person should, get the sign off of their spouse before they do that. But I could understand that. And it goes back to, the preparation and the mindset I was talking about earlier with the two people coming into the marriage. You're coming into a marriage, it's a lot. You have to be in the mindset of, I'm looking to join as one, become one, submit to each other. And that's just not something a lot of people even know about or, what that really entails. There's a lot of still holding on to yourself, your identity, who I'm supposed to be. I don't want to lose myself in marriage. What do you mean by that? You're married. You know what I mean? And not to say that you shouldn't have individuality. That's a different thing. But marriage is supposed to change you. You're no longer a single person. You were single. There's literally a, spiritual, mental, and physical change where you're no longer one person. So you are supposed to be changed. Anyways, I digress.
So I have another question for everyone. Do you think that the term unequally yoked is overused or misunderstood?
Misunderstood.
No.
That was quick.
I'm sorry. I think it's underused. Yes. I think it's
Two.
when it rains.
I do think it's underused, and it definitely is misunderstood. I don't think that when we're in dating that we think about that enough. Excuse me. I don't think that we think about it enough, or we only think about it in one aspect as far as, oh, are they a Christian or and it's like there's so much more under that. Yeah, it's so much more under that umbrella for making sure you're equally yoked with somebody. So I don't think that it's. Oh.
I'm sorry. You're doing so great.
Like your morals, your vision, your goals in life, like all of those are equally yoked. If you have a completely different goal than where I'm going, we're both Christians, but we're not headed in the same direction as each other. You have different morals than I do. What are we doing being together? So there's so many things other than just are you SDA, am I SDA? And even that, there are some SDA men that aren't, and women. I have to stop doing that, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying. That just aren't good. So just because we're under the same bracket doesn't mean, and we know a lot of couples that we know, one of them didn't start off as SDA, but then they joined. So like, it's a whole bracket under the equally yoked, but it definitely is misunderstood to me.
I believe that unequally yoked is one of the most important things that the Bible tells us about the process of picking out our partner, dating our partner, and eventually getting married to our partner. As I was a child in my church that I grew up in, I've watched people I've never seen anybody that was unequally yoked stay married.
What is that? Yeah. What does that mean?
Anybody that I have seen, any couple that I have seen and know that they are unequally yoked, from knowing them, I have never seen them stay together. Things such as you'll see one person that is in a faith and they go to church and they have a job in the church and you know that they're married, but you've never met their partner. You've never seen their partner. I've seen this happen numerous times as a child. And sometimes, I'd be so close to those people and I say, I wonder who their partner is. And a few years later, or sometimes a lot of years later, they would be divorced. Or you could be in the same faith, but one person is traditionally in that faith, family-wise in that faith, and the other person believes that faith. They have that faith in their heart, and that is also unequally yoked. You don't have to be a different faith, whether you're Baptist or Jewish, whatever faith you're in. How do you take that faith? How do you deal with it? Because your kids are going to deal with that faith the same way they watch you deal with it eventually. So if you're unequally yoked, it's going to be a confusing household. And that goes back to what Manny was saying, as in marriage, you are one.
Stu, you said something before into. Can you talk? Because the three of y'all went all at it at one time.
To answer your question, I do believe that the term unequally yoked or equally yoked is misunderstood. Diamond said it's underused. I think I heard somebody say it's overused. I don't know, but I do believe it's misunderstood in whatever volume that it's used in. To Joel's point, I think a lot of us were raised with the idea of equally yokedness being denominational, like strictly denominational. Find yourself an Adventist girl, or if you're talking to somebody who's not Adventist, are they having the conversations to bring them into the Adventist church? I've had my experience when I'm dating someone, and I'm not gonna lie, that is a question that popped into my head, but I've grown to realize that it's not my job to force this particular person to join, put that pressure on them. Hopefully, I think a lot of us were either born Adventists or raised Adventists at a very early age. So it's natural to us. It's normal. It makes sense to us. But for anyone who is outside of the SDA specific denomination, it does a disservice to force our beliefs, our aspect of our corner of the Christian faith onto someone that we say that we love or someone that we are looking to be with intentionally, because we shouldn't be forcing love in any aspect, in any regards, on anyone. We shouldn't be putting it on anybody. We present it, we discuss it, we find our equal yokeness, and if we can't, then we take the conversation from there. Like, do we continue? What happens, or what the case may be, and that's on individual basis. But I do feel as though being equally yoked goes beyond just faith denomination. I think it also goes to questions such as, do you see, if we have children, do you want to be a stay-home parent? Do you believe in stay-home parents, or should both parents be working? How do you treat in-laws? How do we allow in-laws into our relationship? Stuff like that. Are you okay with somebody who is family or family adjacent, such as like a godparent, or like a church uncle, church aunt, disciplining our children? Do you believe in discipline? What does discipline look like to you? You know, so I do believe that the idea of the concept of equal yokeness has been narrowed down unjustly to just the denomination.
I can agree with that. For the most part, you would see people using unequally yoked, at least when I was growing up, strictly denominational. It wasn't until I started realizing that just because it's not just because people use it as denominational, you're going through dating trying to find out who you're matched with. That's how you're finding out if you're equally yoked with somebody. For the most part, people aren't utilizing the term, but they're doing it throughout their day to day, all the time.
Discernment, which I believe is
Discernment, yeah.
Marcel's favorite word.
No, I think what you guys are saying is correct, but I'd like to push back a little bit. I think what's that called? Compatibility is the broader term that is typically used to figure out if you guys have the same moral standards, beliefs, X, Y, and Z. But when unequally yoked is used, it's typically been applied to spiritual terms specifically. And that doesn't necessarily have to be limited only to denomination, but spiritual levels are all over the place, right? I can say God talks to me, and somebody will be like, you're a little weird. And what do you mean by God talks to you? I mean, it's possible for you to hear God audibly, right? And you could say that to someone, and they'll be like, oh man, am I going to be dealing with schizophrenia later? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's a little scary situation. But point being, unequally yoked, in my view, because there's a term that's been used to describe, equal yokeness outside of the spiritual term has been reserved to describe equal yokeness or unequal yokeness with spiritual terms specifically.
So do you feel as though the equality of the yoke can
You like brown eggs?
like do you feel as though the equality yoke can start off mismatch and grow to equality? So the example you gave was you feel as though the term is spiritually specific.
Right.
So your example, God speaks to me. I hear him as clear as I hear you. Is it okay do you think it's okay for a person like that to be coupled with somebody who doesn't hear them? But okay, you say it, who am I?
No, I think, I mean, it would, I don't know if anyone would say, because God speaks to me in this way, my spouse has to be spoken to in this way as well, right? But as long as my spouse and I agree that God can talk to us, I think that's a standard, right? That's enough. How God speaks to her and how God speaks to me depends on how our own relationships with God have worked out, and that's that. But they don't have to have the same type of communication with God. Now, what I do believe is that, at least from a spiritual standpoint, there has to be an agreement between you and your spouse about the standards and the traditions, spiritual traditions you keep maintaining in your home. Is your home going to be a praying home? Are you going to develop and maintain a culture of going to church? A culture of praying together? These are questions that you and your spouse have to agree on, because you're living together. And it's one thing if you don't have any kids, but when kids come into the picture, there has to be a standard that you and the spouse agree to.
I don't think that, okay, you said it's spiritual. I think that if we're starting this right with God leading both of us to each other, we avoid the whole unequally yoked thing to begin with. Because I could be wrong, I don't think God's going to give me someone who I'm unequally yoked to. I don't think that he's going to do that. That'd be going against, I feel like, something that's supposed to be for him. That'd be going against that. So I don't think God's going to give me a person, say, this is the person for you, but you guys are unequally yoked. That's against his word, and I don't think he'd do that. But I think a lot of relationships that are unequally yoked, end up that way because we started it without God to begin with. I don't think he's leading us down a road that would contradict his word.
I think people's discernment level can probably be different. Right? I think a lot of times we better or learn our discernment as we mature. So sometimes the things that maybe we felt we were hearing
Well said. Yeah.
were not accurate to maybe how we feel. I think that can put us in relationships that can be equally or unequally yoked.
And I don't believe that you and your spouse it's just really difficult to match up in every spiritual aspect, right? Ideally, you guys would help each other grow, right? So where's growth if both of you are on the same level, right? So it's, again, there has to be, what is that called? Non-negotiables. Thank you so much. There has to be non-negotiables that you are, I mean, is this person a Christian or Muslim? Right? That's a non-negotiable for you. You have to, even if they are Christian, am I okay with marrying somebody who's not from sin? So your non-negotiables have to be met. Then you have to have room for growth. And that's where the understanding comes from. That's where the coming together comes from. That's where, you guys becoming one comes from, where you guys actually grow together and set the standards that you want.
I've had discussions with my partner, and sometimes, because there are things in the Bible that are interpreted differently. So some of these things that are interpreted differently, hey, they could change your yoke up. I'm just saying, because I'm just saying, no, because you two.
Oh my God!
And if this is your goal, you two will be raising children together. So your household has to operate in a certain fashion. So if you believe that the Bible tells you're not supposed to drink, but your spouse does not believe that the Bible is telling you you're not supposed to drink, that's an imbalance, and your kids can take from the imbalance and be confused. Is, am I going to do what mommy does? Am I going to do what daddy does? There's other things as well. You may believe in the Sabbath, and your spouse doesn't believe in the Sabbath. There's so many different ways to interpret a lot of things in the Bible. Only through, of course, studying strongly do you get to the truth of the matter. There is always, I believe, a truth of the matter.
Okay.
And that will shape these things, are not little, they're big, but they shape your household. And that shape of your household says how your child is going to grow up to be. You raise them in the right way. So unequally yoked, it's a big question. And that's why I believe that is so important. Last thing, one time, or not one time, my parents used to let the pastor beat me when I was little.
No, that's crazy.
Not in front of everybody.
No.
Oh my God!
In some countries, that would be okay.
I don't want. Listen, the pastor is like my uncle. I don't want him to go to jail, but they would march me downstairs after church. I wasn't the best kid. They would march me downstairs after church and say,
That's where you should have started with.
Go in the bathroom with the pastor, and he's going to beat you. And I'm like, wait, y'all agree with this?
They were equally
What kind of
yoked.
yoke y'all got?
They were equally yoked. They both agreed on it.
They both agreed. They were equally yoked. It was a problem for me. But that's equally yoked. And here I am.
Okay.
I think
So much makes sense.
I'm so glad you guys brought the word into it, because I believe something that you said triggered my ears to go look. In 1 Corinthians 7, under the section of keep your marriage vows, these people are already married. But it says, but to the rest, I, not the Lord, say, it's Paul, if any brother has a wife who does not believe and she's willing to live with him, let him not divorce her. And a woman who has a husband who does not believe, if he is willing to live with her, let her not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, but now they are holy. And it goes into I do believe that there's some aspect of nuance that may come into that section. However, like I said, the equality of the yoke I do believe can shift as people grow, learn, and develop. Opening yourself up to the Spirit, letting the Spirit lead you, and then conveying that love in a loving way to your partner. Because if you one day step in and say, I'm doing this, and this is how we're going to operate, I don't know if a household can operate that way because because now there's two opposing forces. Even if you are right, it's all about the tone in which it's delivered. The gift is the truth, but the packaging is your tone and your body language and everything else that comes with it. And it's easier to accept that gift if the wrapping is nicely done. So I don't disagree that that God is going to pull you into a confusing situation, because no one here believes our God is the author of confusion. I don't believe, like I said, it's not confusion, but it's not to say that you're not put in a place to minister and to testify and work. And maybe your presence, your relationship is set to minister to someone else and to bring one more in.
Or vice versa.
Unfortunately.
So again, I'm going back to my earlier comments. I think it was in the last episode that I said this, where I was advising that folks that are looking to go into marriage just come with an open mind.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're talking about, God willing, a lifetime together. So much changes, right? You can be equally yoked when you enter marriage. And then as life happens, both of you end up in different places. What then? Right? So is that not in God's will at that time? Right? The point I'm trying to caution against is this idea that there has to be a perfection. Don't get me wrong, there has to be standards and non-negotiables that you at least, to the best of your knowledge, enter a situation with, a relationship with. But once you're there, how you handle it, how you deal with it, has to be led with prayer and humility. That's the best word I can use, humility. Life happens that changes things in so many different ways. And the truth, so let me finish my first thought. The truth is that the kind of love that brings understanding and true commitment in a marriage is not coming from you and I, right? And when we talk about, the famous chapter, the love chapter that's always read at weddings, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, it's, yes. It's not a coincidence that it's nestled in between the two chapters that are talking about spiritual gifts, right? 12 is talking about you desiring spiritual gift. 14 is talking about the edification, its use of edification to the church. And nestled in between it is talking about love is kind, love is patient, all these things. And that's because, in my opinion, that is a spiritual gift. Being able to, yes, no, it is. So being able to live when two people are seeing things two different ways, right? And still be committed to your commitment and still, holding up your marriage in the way that you're supposed to hold and holding up your partner, right? Your partner is going through some things, right? Your partner could be hit with a bout of depression. So many things about life happens that all of a sudden you're living that, and that's not coming from you, right? It's literally something the Holy Spirit has to lead through you on.
And you're absolutely right about love being a spiritual gift, because at the last verse of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, which is talking about all of the different gifts, it says, earnestly desire the best gifts, and yet I show unto you a more excellent way. And the first verse of chapter 13, the very next verse says, though I speak with the tongues of men and angels, if I don't have love, then I don't have anything. I'm just sounding brass or tinkling cymbal.
That's my favorite part, the end. Oh, sorry. I forgot. Yes. Yeah, that's all I had to say.
So then the question comes in here. In a healthy relationship, what does it look like when things aren't going well?
Grace.
Yeah, grace. Grace makes that plays a big part in a relationship is grace. And
Paint that picture for me, what that means.
Two individuals have one of the individuals having a hard day, and they might be taking it out on everything in the house. And you have to be self-aware. One, you have to be paying attention to the individual. How does this person normally act when they're upset? I think all those things play a big role in the grace and just being submissive and kind of lowering yourself to allow that person to just be a human being.
Can someone love God deeply and still be a bad partner?
Yes.
I think so.
It's possible.
Yes.
It's very possible.
Explain it.
But I don't think, sorry.
No, you good?
Oh, you good?
No, go ahead. Sorry. I interrupted.
No, you could love God deeply but still be with the wrong partner. I think people can display certain characteristics or traits that don't mix well with the other person. Some people don't give grace to that person for them to experience the changes that they need to change with, or other people don't give chances for them to grow. And you could love God, but people do say they don't act on it. They say, but they don't act on it. And a lot of people don't understand it too, I think, for the most part. So I think that's why.
But I believe that if you truly love God, then those two worlds can't exist. Like if you know what it looks like to love God and how God tells you, forgive others. What's that verse? Our Father who art in heaven. It says to forgive those
Who trespass against us.
Yes. And that is what God loves. Like, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And if you truly love yourself, then you have God's love because you are made in his image. But if you are being a horrible person in a marriage, or was that how you phrased the question?
A bad partner.
A bad
doesn't
partner,
necessarily
I'm
mean
sorry.
horrible.
If you're being a bad partner, then that's not, you're not showcasing love or godly love.
I'll just ask, does being a bad partner mean you're a horrible person?
No.
I would think it's more of a question of compatibility.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
No?
I believe that the church at times, and this is not God, the church at times can stress a person into getting into the wrong marriage.
Talk about it.
I believe that the church guilts us at a certain age, and that guilt can lead you into rushing into marriage when you should have taken more time and prayed more to make sure you're in the right situation. And that's not God, that's the church.
That's Satan.
Well, now,
Because if you go with guilt, God didn't give us a spirit of guilt.
yes,
He
ma'am.
gave us sound mind. So if we're being led by the building or the body of Christ, then you have to check your heart.
And through that, two good Christians can be in a marriage that they're not supposed to be in. And because both of men and women more, get guilted and stressed into getting into those marriages.
I don't know.
They look good on paper, but maybe that's not who God had for you originally.
I just want to go back to this then, and I'm only speaking from my experience, and not just mine. Actually, I have friends that can attest to the same thing. I want us to be careful not to start thinking that because we're good Christians and because we know God and because we love God, that our marriages will that I can't be a bad partner. Just because I love God and I know the Bible and I truly am following him, I can certainly be a bad partner, specifically because I mean, a lot of us just don't know how to love, or reversed, don't know how to accept love. They've never learned it. Maybe they grew up in a dysfunctional home, right? And they've never seen, healthy love expressed. Now, all of a sudden, you're in a marriage with somebody who has been there, and they're like, oh, no, that's too much. They just don't know how to do it. That's why it keeps going back to grace, right? And prayer. This is where God gives you grace.
And surrender.
Because for the partner who understands it, they can get frustrated.
Yeah.
And the partner who hasn't experienced that before can be like, listen, you're doing too much. So there's a lot that has to be experienced there. The best thing I can say about marriage is you enter it with humility.
Yeah.
You enter it with humility. You're dealing with a human being who's lived their life for, 28, 29, 30, how many odd years, growing up with a specific family that's grown in a specific different way. And now you guys are coming, and same to you, you guys are not coming together to create a new culture, a new environment. It's not an easy process.
I would say that advice goes into forming any intimate relationship, platonic or otherwise.
No, but yes, I agree, because you can't be friends with people that don't believe in the same thing you don't believe.
No, not just that. It's the being able to come together with grace, applying grace.
Okay, that part. Yes.
And being and knowing that this person has had a different experience for the umpteen years they've been alive before me, before the blessing that is my presence. You're welcome.
That should have been on mic. You should have been mic for that.
You're all welcome. But being able to have that grace for them, the patience for them, and also the grace for yourself, because you may know that you're right. You're not doing anything wrong, and then get frustrated when this person is rejecting it or responding a certain way.
Right doesn't matter, Stu.
Correct. It's all about the package that the gift came in, and just applying that grace. Say like, hey,
amen.
Maybe you shouldn't come to me you shouldn't respond to them with a petty spirit. Or you shouldn't go 2 days of silence. Just being open to the possibility that you're coming together to form something new, and it takes time, it takes patience, it takes kindness, it takes openness and humility. Unfortunately, it does come with some growing pains, but the emphasis on that, or the adjective on that, is growing.
I believe that your relationship with God has to be tight before you can identify whatever that's going on with your spouse. Because if you have a great relationship with God, half the time, you can just go to God with your frustrations, and you just have to be self-aware, have self-control. Because when you get frustrated, that's the enemy just tempting you to kind of stir up the pot. But when you're self-aware and you know who you are and you know your relationship with Christ, half of the issues of life will be solved if you just went to your creator and said, hey, your boy, you gave him to me. I'm gonna need you to go deal with him. I'm gonna do my thing with you, and then you'll tell me when to move. But if you don't have a relationship with Christ, like these stuff, the Holy Spirit will already warn you when things are going on.
But then how do you convey that to you and your partner had a dispute, had some kind of conflict. You guys go to your corners, speak to the Creator, ask for a spiritual reset. But then you have to come back together and convey like, hey, I apologize. Take that accountability. I don't think it just stops at a conversation with God. You now have to make amends. Forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors.
The Holy Spirit's going to do the work. And sometimes you have to invite the Holy Spirit into conversations.
I think the Holy Spirit's going to give you the idea, but you still have to do work. You still have work to
What-
do.
No, I think what Marcel is saying is that ultimately, yes, the decision to come back and have a conversation is yours. That if you don't invite the Holy Spirit into that conversation, it can be disastrous.
Yeah.
The conversation has to be had. I agree with you 100%.
I've had so many conversations, and then I know that it's about to go left, and I'll be like, oh, I forgot to invite the Holy Spirit. Hold on, and I'll pray, and then the conversation just goes way smoother.
I'm not gonna lie. How do you argue with somebody? Like, let's say you came at somebody hot. How do you then continue hot after they just prayed?
That's the point. That is the point.
I'm saying,
When you invite the
let's say-
Creator in the conversation, you gotta humble yourself because there's no other
agree.
choice.
I agree. It's just an awkward imagery. We're like, slow down. Let's bring God into this.
I was about to knock
And
you
then,
out, but-
amen. So what? So what I was saying was like, it's just such a funny imagery. But I agree.
It's funny, but it's real.
Right. All right. I think we're good. This was an awesome conversation.
Amen.
This
It
was so
got
fun.
really
was.
deep.
It got really deep
This was
real
a good
quick.
time as per usual.
Yes.
But we got to wrap up. You can see it started getting dark outside. You know, it's about that
It's
time.
about to be dinner.
Right.
Not Sabbath
Sorry,
dinner.
that's Sabbath lunch. Yeah, exactly. Hey, so just to wrap it up, thank y'all so much for taking the time to listen, to watch this, for being willing to have the conversation even with us here.
Yes.
I hope that this doesn't exactly decide what you think, but I really hope it fosters the conversation that you're going to have with the people around you and in your life. So thank y'all for being here. Thank you for being here, and don't let it stay here.
Yes.
Keep talking. Happy Valentine's Day. 'Tis the season, right?
Test the season.
So, congratulations on whatever situation you're in. And I hope that goes however you wish it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to y'all. Peace. Bye.
Bye.